Welcome, everyone. This is Punny Noodles, and you're listening to LOTRO Players News, where we take a look at the latest news on LOTRO and here at LOTRO Players. And this week we have with us Terry Edwin.
Hi.
And Maven.
Hey, y'all. Wow, that's a short list.
It's a short list.
Yes.
Well, Sansa's working. I don't know where Arindis is. I thought she was going to be here.
She might have
but
school
maybe
stuff.
something came up.
Yeah.
Apparently so. But let's see what's going on with the game. And there was a third round of Bower this week.
Yeah, and they wiped the servers for it, so I had to copy all over again. And then I had to spend another however many minutes sifting through shared storage. So that was exciting. But I did get Terry copied over because one of the things that they did was sort of kind of some preview work on the avatar changes for the human race.
Oh.
And honestly, I didn't think she looked all that different. You can definitely see the differences with the male options because I played around with character creation.
Right.
But I didn't really notice too much change in the female options.
Are there more hairstyles?
No.
Oh, I guess they said they were going to do something like that later. I think I remember them saying that the avatar thing was different from like any barbershop stuff.
Right.
But I have a feeling, though, she would like to see some better hairstyles.
I kind of would.
I'd like a few more choices. A lot of it's a little bit too punky. Too young whippersnapper for me.
In fact, there are maybe 2 hairstyles to each combination that I'm even able to tolerate. So I know what you mean on there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of the same. You know, there's maybe 2 for each like race that those are the 2 I default to because I don't like the other ones. It's kind of a bummer. I guess there's maybe 3 on the Hobbit. Maybe. Woman, Hobbit girl.
Well, let's see. Oh, yeah. Well, you notice that all my Hobbit lasses have a bun. They
have a bun, yeah. And I go between the pigtails, the bun, and like Sanswenda has, where it's just to her shoulder. Welcome to LOTRO Players News, where we're talking hairstyles this evening.
Well, I'm trying to think. Actually, most of my Hobbit lasses were hats.
Oh, right.
Yeah, there is that.
Right. Hey, when you rolled a high elf, Terry, were there better hairstyles for those? Because last week they were a little rough around the edges. They were
worse.
Oh, they were worse?
Yeah, well, and I'm rolling a male high elf, so yeah, I didn't really notice any changes.
Yeah, I did both. Last week I did both, but I haven't tried this week. Yeah, they were pretty rough around the edges, I thought. I'm like, surely these aren't going to be the finals.
Actually, I think I like the regular elf hairstyles better than I like the high elf.
Me too. If those are going to be the high elf hairstyles, yes, I definitely like the regular elf hairstyles better.
I did notice, however, that the male high elf is not defaulted to looking old.
Oh, that's good. The
lines around the mouth that made him look really old are something you can now add as an extra detail option. You're not forced
so it's an option
to do them by default, which I like.
I don't want to give spoilers, but if you think about it, those messy hairstyles, I mean, given the person's situation, the elf situation, you can kind of understand why they'd have a messy hairstyle.
You could. But you don't want to look like that you're older than Círdan the ship.
No, you definitely don't.
I mean, as far as I could tell, based on in-game images, I could only imagine that the trauma of the Last Alliance is what put Círdan at the stage of his life where he would start growing a beard.
That's true.
Yes, right. Actually, they should. I guess Grey Havens wasn't an option, was it? I was going to say if it was an option, they could have given you a beard.
Oh, you start at the Grey Havens in the late in the Third Age, and then see Círdan with the spear.
And then and then you have an option yourself to have a beard. Although, yeah, because Tolkien didn't specifically specify that Círdan was the only one with a beard, but he's not Noldorin.
I didn't know if he said he was the only one, or if he said it was very rare, and that there's. The problem is, I think he said so little about it that I think most people run into speculation.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's really kind of open for interpretation because I think really, I mean, what we've got. I mean, I know we looked it up. I think in the Return of the King, and I don't know that it's in much detail anyplace else where he just simply describes Círdan as having a beard. That's it. He doesn't really say much else about it.
I don't know.
I know, and I don't remember in the letters. You might remember. I mean, I don't remember there being anything in the letters of anybody asking about that.
We should ask Olsen.
Yeah, well, I think part of me is I'm channeling a little bit of him because we actually had that conversation. But I'm not a reliable channeler of Olsen, so yeah, so we should probably ask him that question. Yeah, we'll have to ask him, like maybe the next bingo night or something. We'll have to ask him that question because it seems like I remember him saying that he just doesn't. And we've got film coming up, and of course that's going to become an issue. Although I don't think quite yet. Well, this season it will, I think. And I think we talked about that at some length at some point about Círdan and is anybody else going to have beard? Are we going to have elves with beards?
Yes. But if LOTRO is right about when Círdan started growing the beard, then during the film project, you won't have to worry about him having a beard.
Now that is complete surmise. That's right up there with hobbits and pies, which is a complete LOTRO invention.
But if the high elves have been sleeping for 3,000 years, then high elf males having a beard option is totally valid.
That's true.
Yeah. Any trauma that can make you sleep for 3,000 years.
You wake up from that coma, and do you really want to cut off all that hair?
Well, you ought to have a beard when you wake up. Actually,
right. There's a reason why I called.
The guys should anyway.
There's a reason why when I created a high elf last week, I called the high elf Rip Van Pineleaf.
That's what I want. I mean. Great. I wonder how many people are going to try some riff on Rip Van Winkle for their elf when Mordor comes out.
Yeah,
it's totally. I guess the female elves we could do some riff on Sleeping Beauty, right? Because in the original fairy tales, didn't she sleep for 100 years or something?
Let's see. I don't know what the exact.
It was some long time. Definitely not the Disney version. It was not days.
Yeah,
it was like a century or something.
Actually, that I would think of it is because I believe it was not. I think it was
specified time.
Something about 90 or 99 years, I believe it was.
I thought it was. Yeah,
I know.
Disney didn't specify time, but I know it. I think the evil fairy even. Well, I don't even remember. I think it seems like in one version she even specifically said something like.
Yeah. Well, it depends which version. Because, of course, the one unfortunately, I don't know the original fairy tale, and I know mainly Disney, and I also know Tepper's version. And Tepper goes out of the way to specify it was 90 years or something around that area.
Right.
Except, of course, she has a rather unusual version of the story herself intentionally. And in that,
look that up.
Well, right. The original isn't exactly PG.
No, it's not. Well, none of those are really.
True.
I mean, none of them are.
But I'm reasonably sure that they don't actually say how long it's been. Just it's implied it's a really long time.
But that's true. Actually, I have to take it back about the black fairy, the bad fairy saying something, because the story that I recall, the original story, is she was actually meant to die when she pricked her finger. But one of the fairies had not given her gift yet. Before the bad fairy did it. So after the bad fairy said you'll die, the good fairy made her gift that no, you won't die. You'll just go to sleep.
Yeah, that was it on and in fact, they did a spin on that one in Tepper's version because Tepper's version is supposed to be the diary of Beauty's diary.
Right.
And what she did was you said, no, she could never change any of my spells. It was originally just 90 years, and she just misunderstood. But then, of course, that was just a little thing for her particular version of the story. Yeah. But so obviously,
I bet there's different versions of the story too.
Yeah,
there usually is. It's a French fairy tale originally, isn't it? Isn't it French?
It's so yeah,
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot
That
of
one
them,
is-
a lot
that
of them
one
have
is
a lot of different
Cinderella.
versions.
Right. I remember when I was a kid, I was Sleeping Beauty, in fact, was my movie. You know how when you're a kid you have like your movie, like my niece, her movie is
Okay.
Mary Poppins, right? But mine was Sleeping Beauty because it had come out, and I was like, I had all the stuff. I had like Sleeping Beauty, so she was like the whole thing. I still know Flora Fauna Merriweather, and I mean I remember. And I also, of course, have said that also ruined me for relationships because I, at a very young age, figured it's very natural to meet a guy in the woods that you've never met before and completely fall in love with him, and he's completely trustworthy, and it's not a problem. So, of course, later in life, that kind of led to some issues. Anyway, that's another podcast.
All right. Yeah, I think. I think I've allowed this to go into too many tangents.
No. But
high elves.
no, I have a point here. So, what is I going to now? See, now you're going to. I forgot what. Oh, so I was really shocked when I was about 12 or so. I was given volumes of the original Grimm's fairy tales, and I was like, my jaw fell on the floor. I was like, this is not right. And you're right, not PG. I mean,
really,
they're cautionary tales. They're kind of cautionary tales for the times.
Well, actually, even Grimm is actually based on some of the stuff. Grimms are considered tame compared to a lot of the ones they're based on.
That's right.
And so I don't know whether they originally tamed them or if they looked for the tamest versions of each of them, and that's what they described or what. But let's go into High Elves. And
you're no fun.
And Boer Update 21 Build 3, and the changes they have in there is they had the first rev of the Avatar updates where they had the human models, and I didn't see much change on the female side. I don't know if Terry, if you did deeper looks into that.
Yeah, I didn't really look. I mean, I checked Terry Adwin because I copied her over and played with new character creation options. Didn't really notice a ton of differences, but it could just be I run DX9, so it could just be that since I'm not on DX11, I mean, I could run DX11, so I mean, I could theoretically bump my graphics up and check them that way, but from what I'm seeing on DX9, it didn't alter things for me a whole lot on the female side. I noticed significant differences on the male side, but not the female human.
Well, I'm on 11, and I didn't notice, and I noticed it the same way around. The male seems to be changed more than the female. And I know that there's some people on the forums who seem to be rabid on one way or the other. And I'm saying, well, I don't know. I
get to pick
one. I think some people are complaining that whatever you select only changes your avatar for you, but apparently what other people see is still always the new one or something. I don't know what.
It's going to be whichever option you see is going to be based on whatever options everybody else has on. So if I've got it selected to see new avatars, I'm going to see everybody in new avatars. If somebody else has it selected for old avatars, they're going to see the old avatars.
All right. So what you see then is what you choose and not what the person who has the character chose.
Right.
All right.
Which kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, you're saying then what model have it, they don't want to load both at the same time.
Right. So you basically see all of the characters in the new model, or you see all of the characters in the old model, depending on what your settings are.
All right. And, of course, the High Elf had some cosmetic alterations, which I didn't examine it closely enough in order to tell one way or the other, but then I don't pay that close attention to that stuff.
I mostly just noticed the frowny lines, because the frowny lines were a big deal for me.
Yes.
My elf looked grumpy. But backing up a second, actually, I don't know. I don't understand why people are pitching a fit now when we knew that this was how they were handling the change to begin with. I mean, they said that way back when they announced that was how they were going to do it. So for people, for there to be all this venom about it is just kind of, it doesn't make any sense to me.
There's always going to be venom.
No, you can't please everybody. They already know they can't please everybody. So they're trying to find the happiest medium that they can. Because some people are going to hate the new ones. Some people are going to hate the old ones. So being able to pick which one you see is kind of the best compromise.
All right.
It's just going to be easier for the game engine to handle all of one or all of the other instead of trying to figure out, back and forth. That's what makes sense to me anyway.
Okay. And then, of course, there's a little bit, they're still testing the first 2 chapters of the Black Book of Mordor. I haven't looked into that too much on this time around. But they did add Stable Masters finally.
Yay for Stable Masters. I would love to preview the Black Book of Mordor. The problem is that Mordor is only up on weekends, and weekends aren't really my own time. They're
our time. They're LPN time.
Everybody else's time. I don't have free time typically on the weekends, so it's
All right, and they're starting to add some of the gaps that things like the quest rewards and stuff like that are starting to be put into the game. Those always get slowly put in. Still no skirmish awards past 105. I presume it'll be a couple of weeks before that comes in.
Really? That should have been the first thing that went in. I'm totally sucking up to Pine Leaf.
Yeah. But it looks like, so they did say something about the High Elves having a couple of quests in Kellendin when they start, instead of having to being thrown into the epic storyline that they have no understanding about.
Now,
I have not gotten to that yet, though. So
here's what I wonder, and if you get there, let me know. When he gets to Elrond, does Elrond go, "Hey, great to see you again," or does he? Are we just going to go with the usual thing? I mean, I'm going to be real curious about that. It's like, "Oh, hi, you're back." I mean, please, Standing Stones, do that. I mean,
they usually can manage to fit some in some of the quest texts.
Like that one we did with Sans the other day. What was it? Who was that did that?
Oh, that Loremaster.
Keep your head down.
Yes. Yeah, I talked to him, and I was the one reading the quest text out loud, and so he says to my character, "Keep your head low and your voice lower." And Sans is cracking up, and she says, "Yeah, for her, he was keep your head low and oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that she's on a hobbit."
So we know they can do it. We know we know you can do it, Standing Stones.
Yeah, and in fact, there is one where there is a quest it's at the very beginning of the Black Book of Mordor, and you meet someone there that you better get different text as a high elf than you get as any other race. Oh yeah, because if you don't, then someone really messed something up. That's all I got to say about that.
Interesting.
Yeah, so there are a couple occasions on that matter. So they had to have. They will need the ability to have something different for a high. It's like in Bingo Boffin, where sometimes you got different quests. Where when you are meeting your sister in Stangard during the Bingo Boffin quest, obviously the Bjorning gets different stuff because that's the person's sister, while anyone else.
Well, and also
it's not. If you're
depending
different
on
race, it's not.
And depending on what you've done in the game, you either see Gunine or you don't.
Right.
And later on in Rohan, it's either just a villager or it's actually Mercy.
Yeah.
Oh, spoilers! I'm being very spoilery. Sorry. So I'm hoping they do that because that'll make it really interesting, more interesting.
And see what else we have. We have some updates to monsters and stuff like that. Now they are trying to tweak the ratings so that the transition from 105 to 110 is a little less jarring,
Okay.
and then adding and moving some of that steepness over to the 111 to 115 area, because
Well, that
it was
makes
really
sense.
jarring going up to 106.
Yeah, I mean, and I assume they'll do that across like everything, like gear and everything, right? When they do that.
Well, I have not tested that since I haven't reached 106 yet in this build.
Oh, okay.
And
So you're actually reporting from your own experience.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
got
So
it.
this is from the what I'm saying right now is what's in the patch notes.
Okay.
So that's pretty much it for the changes. The rest of it is, of course, just what they had before.
It's very exciting.
We're getting closer. So
Of course, I'm not excited about having to re-roll every time they wipe, but it was a good thing they did wipe, because last week was a little bit. I mean, it was a little bit Looney Tunes. They would have probably had to anyway with what they added in.
All right, then what else have we got? Oh, we have store sales. That's right. There was no Chronicle this week because it was a short week. So what's on
You mean
sale
Beacon?
this week then?
Beacon.
Yeah, sorry. Too much DDO. Sorry.
I was going to say, I bet that's a
This
DDO
week's
thing.
free sample is a simple rally horn times 1 with the coupon code MORECREW, MORCREW, and 20% off the stat tomes, regeneration food, run speed boosts, and attack damage boosts.
Okay. And the sample horn you said was
MORECREW, MORCREW.
More crew. Okay, I guess bring them in to us. So let's head then into our site news. We'll begin with the community events for July 7th through 13th. And well, today we have had the first day on the concert series, and I think that's continuing on tomorrow.
So when is Weatherstock's, what, next weekend or the weekend after?
Now, Weatherstock is in 2 weeks.
2
2
weeks.
weeks.
Okay.
Also, Belaguer had the Summer of Love, and actually going on right now-ish is the Knights of the White Lady event.
Oh, right,
That
yeah.
obviously I'm not at because I'm podcasting.
We're broadcasting.
A little busy.
Yeah. Yeah, right, because that started at 6 p.m. and is
Yeah,
obviously
presumably it's still
ending.
going. Actually, that Summer of Love event on Belaguer sounds really interesting, but I won't get to go to that either.
No time for everything.
Yeah.
No rest for the wicked.
So therefore, let's head into LOTRO Academy, episode 142, volume 1 review, part 2, where we went through...
So how far did you get this time?
Well, part 2 was books 2 through 8.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, the first part we did the tutorials and the prologues and book 1. We got a lot farther in part 2.
We're already making progress.
Yeah. Good discussion. Very spoilerific, but by this point the game's been out for 10 years, so especially the first 8 books of volume 1 have been out for 10 years, so it's at that point it shouldn't really be spoilers.
Plus, if somebody's new to the game, don't listen to those until you're
right.
Right.
I remember I was listening to the recording because I was prepping for the session we did last night, and I remember talking about my first time up Weathertop when Kid I sent you up there the first time. I had a lot of expectations because I had never played an MMO before, so I'm like expecting it to be, because everybody that I talked to is like a serious, or was talking to at the time, was like a serious gamer, and they were talking about how difficult the game was and all this other stuff, and so I'm expecting it to be really hard. And yeah, I'm expecting basically what we see in the retake Weathertop instance is what I'm actually expecting to find on the landscape when we go up there. It was a nerve-wracking trip up that mountain, let me tell you.
I bet. Good times.
For that and other anecdotes, you can listen to that on the LOTRO Player site or on the Academy feed.
All right, then let's head into Arid's Mordor Beta 2, High Elf and More, where he talks about his impressions of the High Elf. What he liked, what he didn't like. And apparently he took a trip to Barad-dûr at the same time.
We went there, didn't we go there?
We did go to Barad-dûr, yeah. I was just going to say, we went there.
I wasn't actually paying attention to where we were in Mordor. I was trying to keep up with the dots, because I was the one way behind everybody else.
She was sightseeing.
I was.
Which actually is worth it, because she was streaming, so her camera was on, right? You were streaming it? So,
yeah.
If anybody was going to, like, linger, she was the right person to do it. We also went up around Mount, there's stuff around the base of Mount Doom, and that's actually where we ended up getting trapped in the earth.
All right. I haven't been there yet, and I have a feeling I wonder if I'm going to see Barad-dûr before the release.
Are you saying you don't want to see it before the release?
I'm not too well. It depends. I'm not too sure. It depends on whether or not how much my mood is and stuff like that. You got to remember, I'm not going to be doing the auto level to 115 thing. So for me to get to Barad-dûr isn't exactly going to be the safest thing in the world.
Well, you're going to go in on Pine Leaf, right? I mean, you're going to go in at a currently level capped character.
Well, yeah, I'll be going into Mordor with a currently level capped character, yes.
So by the time you make it to Barad-dûr, you'll be at the right level, for that area.
Yeah, probably.
But you're right. Actually, there's a lot between the Black Gate and Barad-dûr. I mean, in terms of quests and areas.
Right.
And
I did quite a number of quests on the previous build, and of course, with the white pass, it's like, am I going to go through this again?
Yeah.
So there was probably best for me to save it for when the release comes along, because you don't want to burn yourself out on the content before the content is released.
That's true.
Although, frankly, I think there's so much content. I don't think there's, just like what I did was I kind of like dabbled in different areas, but didn't do a whole lot in them, and then kind of saw, there's an area over there, but I'm not going to go there. I mean, you can kind of manage it, so you don't get burned out on it. But, the Epic, I bet you we're going to end up in Barad-dûr in the Epic. Maybe it'll be an instance or something, so it'll be more level friendly for when we get there. But
all right, we'll see what's there. And then there was also a separate article on the Weatherstock concert series.
Just in case one isn't enough.
Of course.
This goes more in depth about who's playing when.
Yes. And yes, the first half, the Saturday show is over, of course. But for those listening in the live, we do have a second one on Sunday from 1 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time.
And it's got a really cool list of... This is useful info if you're planning on attending Weatherstock too, not just a concert series, because it's got all the different band posters and information about, little information about each band and where they come from.
Ooh, let's see. The
Posters are really cool. I always love looking at band posters for all the concerts I don't get to go to.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see. The Shades are playing at 1:30. I'll have to see if I can remember that. Now let's then head into the Family Line part 142. The Last Departing. And this is, I think they're finally starting to wind down.
Really?
Yes, because I actually read this episode and it sounded like a We Are in the Denouement type episode.
So what I'm hearing is that maybe in a couple of months there will be the full PDF that I can just download and go with.
That's what I'm thinking.
Hint, Tim.
And I think his spelling's gotten better too. It's the last time I've read it. Let's see. So therefore, 142. So what? It's going to be shooting for 200 or something? Because if he's shooting for 144, he's got a lot to cover. He's got a lot of loose ends to tie up the two.
Maybe 150?
150, then maybe.
I don't know. Stay tuned.
We'll see.
We'll find out.
Then, of course, he could always have a little twist that comes along that says, oh, no, there are another 300 episodes left.
He's done that before.
Yes. Oh, no. This is just volume 1. Now for volume 2. Let's head into our weekend LOTRO. Terry Adwin, what were you up to?
Well, so you've already heard that I played around on Bulwer. I discovered that high elves can do Russian ballet. So, plans are being made for a high elf champion dance troupe. It's going to happen. It's true. Yeah, when those come live, I'm making myself a high elf champion, and he's going to run a kinship called the Bolshoi Theater, and it's going to be a dance troupe. We actually managed to get synced up, Maven and Sans and myself, doing the high elf ballet in front of the Black Gate of Mordor. That was pretty fun.
Yeah, that was pretty fun. We actually had a guy come in. A guy rode by us, stopped on his horse, switched to RP mode, and then cheered at us. And Elise joined us too. And what was she, a guardian? I can't remember what she was. She was carrying a shield. And so
guardian or a warden.
Yeah, that's right. When she did it, the shield stayed on her arm while she was doing this ballet move, and it was beautiful.
So it was like smacking my character in the head, or just missing it, because she wasn't synced up with the rest of us. So when she did her turn was when my character dropped for whatever reason. So the shield went right over my character's head. It was great.
It was awesome. I think we have some of that highlighted. I need to go.
We do. We do. There's
really
some of it highlighted, yeah. And then also got caught up on quests in the No Man Lands and Daggerlad in the Waste, so I've got Slag Hill still to finish. And we also opened up Terry opened up the Fellowship resource instances. Didn't actually do the resource instances, but did all the stuff that you have to do in order to get them open.
She killed many things.
Killed lots of things.
Langruven. I told you you'd love Langruven.
I did. We had
place, right?
We went in and it's like, oh, let's kill everything. I can do this.
And there's plenty of stuff to kill. And also, Pineleaf, she got to fill up the maggot holes with those rocks. Remember when we did that in Aurora?
Yeah, and it's funny because I remember you guys talking about it in Aurora, and I didn't do it there. And so I just have finally caught up to where everybody else was, and I didn't realize like how completely huge those holes are. It's like, this is why we can only carry one pocket item, because we're carrying all of this other junk in our pockets.
A massive boulder. I mean, it's almost like maybe it's a blow-up thing, or it's one of those like a tent, where when you flick it out, it opens up kind of thing. Maybe, I don't know. It's like
yeah. It was
fun.
It's beyond ridiculous. And then the Arkenstone newbies, the characters we rolled a few weeks ago, have all made it to level 20-ish, because some of them are 21, and got the skirmish tutorial completed. So that was fun.
Yeah.
So, Maven, what were you up to?
What you did.
What I did.
What you did.
You did other stuff.
I did do other stuff. I actually wrote kind of an essay here, in fact, now that I look at it. So my usual Friday Throne, I have the great honor, as long as I remember to sign up for it, to go do the Friday night raiding with the Ploy kin. And it's a great group of people. They've known each other for years. Actually, I told the raid leader, I said, it's like listening to a radio show while I play the game, because they just have known each other for so long. And it's just it's kind of like, when we play, because we've known each other. So it's like that. Anyway, so we did the Throne of Terra, and I know I've had some stories in the past about it, and doing pieces of it, and all. This was the best run, and I am not a raiding player, so I don't do a lot of raiding, and I think for me, it was a learning experience about what a difference it makes when you have the right mix of classes. Like in this particular thing, anybody that's run Red Terror, there are times when you need 2 full-on tanks to do what needs to be done. And if you don't have that and you're trying to use a warden or a captain or something else as one of the tanks, it gets a little interesting. In this case, we had 2 tanks, we had 2 minis, we had a full selection. We even had a burglar. And we had a champ, at least one champ, I think. We may have had more than one. And we had at least one arcane, and we may have had more. And it was really interesting because everybody brought their strengths to the table. We didn't have a wipe except, and I don't think we count this as a wipe, but one of the bosses, it's for those of you that have done it, it's the second boss. I guess it's the first big boss after the Mumax, the famous Mumax. And and there's a lot of debuffs that happen there. Boy, you got to really manage a bunch of stuff, and it's just like a constant, now this happens, and now that happens, and now this happens, and now that happens. Anyhow, so we got down, and I noticed I was suddenly dying really fast, and I didn't realize the reason was because both minis had died, and all these other people, the Cappies had died. So, but I didn't last, and I went down, and there was one other person left, and just as he died, the boss went down. So all of a sudden, all the medallions and marks show up on the screen. We're all dead. But it's like we got credit for it, which was awesome. It was like, okay, we don't count that as a wipe. But we got done with it in less than 2 hours, and it was a really, really fun run. It was just really fun. So that was definitely a highlight. The other night I went with my Irony and Spite. I'm trying to remember when this was. Anyway, I went with my Irony and Spite pals to go farm the first boss in Silent Street. As some of you may know, you can kind of, repeat farm that guy for drops, and all I got was a bunch of rocks. But it was fun to do. It was fun to do that. And then the probably less interesting thing is I've been farming the festival because I'm preparing for my imbued weapons. So I'm farming for Amphalos. I think 30 festival tokens gets you an Amphalos crystal. So I'm trying to build up my inventory of Amphalos crystals so that I can get my imbued weapons leveled kind of like first thing as soon as Mordor opens. So that's exciting stuff. Pine Leaf, how about you?
Right, we will begin with my champion over at Galadin, where I was doing a YouTube series. I finished up my series. I posted the last episode today. It was episode 11. I thought that was a nice number to end on. And in that episode, if you recall, a couple of things on this is I was in Dunland doing the Gwillian quests, so therefore I was doing the Gravenwood, and that's where I was finishing up just before there. So I thought, what's the natural thing to do after going this thing with going through the Tribunal of Shadows and having Gwillian escape was, of course, finally getting to go in and smack on Gwillian. So therefore, of course, running Storm on Methydras.
Yeah.
Now, you also, of course, remember that this is the champion that I was going through the entire series not running skirmishes. So therefore, I finished. So in the series where I did not have a skirmish, I finished off the series by running the first skirmish ever run on this character. And that was, and that, of course, was Storm on Methydras in order to finish up the Gwillian line. And then I started a captain, which is going to be the featured character for my new series, which is going to run from today, actually, tomorrow morning, as we're recording this, is when the first episode is going to be posted. So that's going to go run from then until the release of Mordor, and I'm going to see how far I can get this character between now and then. Right now, of course, I'm just getting ready to do the final instance in Archit, and we'll see. I'm hoping to at least get to Mori. I don't think there's be too much trouble in doing that. We'll find that out. Depends on how much time is left before they release Mordor. Because if there's a lot of testing yet to do, which it looks like there is,
there's a fair amount.
Yeah, there's a fair amount. So there could be a fair amount of time between now. Now, this is not going to be one where I'm going to be showing everything that the character does. So there will be some off-screen time with this particular character. So take that into account, because if I had recorded everything and had an episode for everything that I did, obviously I wouldn't be able to get as far. And then, because of something that Maven said concerning Tarling's Crown, because since, remember last week I was talking about going to Tarling's Crown and coming in on the south side, and having those 7 on there, and she said what she did on the north side. Well, I decided to go see, is there a way to get inside on the north side? Because I know that you'd like to go after the water spirits and all, but I decided...
they were the dark waters. Last week I called them fell spirits, but they're actually the dark waters.
Yeah, those dark waters.
Yeah.
So therefore, I said, okay, I wasn't going to go after those dark waters, but I wanted to see if I could get inside. And eventually what I found out was that there is a little space between the water and the wall that you could actually slip through without alerting the gate guards.
Really?
Yeah. I don't think there's any, I think I looked for something like that on the south side and never found anything like this, but on the north side there is actually a way in without going through the gate.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
So therefore, that's what I did. I went through there, went in that way, and I, of course, trying to go out to that. I usually wound up in camps somewhat, maybe with picking on 1 or 2 at a time. So there was one point where I just decided I had to go after the troll because it was being a nuisance in patrolling the road. Because there was this troll going up and down the road in a very annoying location. But I did manage to get the required kills in Tarling's Crown in doing that.
Oh, good.
So let's go into news beyond the LOTRO, and we'll begin with Warner Brothers, where Warner Brothers and the Tolkien estate settled an $80 million lawsuit.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
I don't know all the details of this.
And apparently it was really big news. I don't know what all was going on either, but...
Yeah, I kind of lost track of all that stuff, so...
Yeah.
Wow.
I think apparently one of the big things on it was that feeling they went a little bit too far in some of the games with the Lord of the Rings iconography, like this gambling game, I think, that seems to be pictured on the article. Or at least I think that's a gambling game of some sort.
That's what it looks like, yeah. It's a slot machine.
That's a slot machine.
Oh, that's right.
Wait,
It's a
slot machines have changed.
Right. Right. Yes, that was a big deal. Yeah. Yeah, they sued whoever the company was doing, or Warner Brothers, I guess it was.
They decided a slot machine was one step too far.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's anything else because there weren't too many details on the whole thing on that matter. They decided to settle the suit, and I presume that. Well, I don't know what the complete outcome of that or anything like this because I didn't even know what was the details of what was going on.
Interesting. Yeah, that's been going on for a while. That's good to know.
And the other thing is that in Adventures in Middle-earth, 5th edition, Rovanian Region Guide is now available. So if you want to have your Adventures in Middle-earth campaign and you want to head over the mountains, you now can do it and have a full description of all the lands beyond. I presume that river on the cover is the Anduin.
Is it the Anduin?
That's what I'm wondering. I'm not too sure if there's a way to tell.
Well, it's windy. I mean, is the Anduin super windy?
It's hard for me to believe that there is a major river that isn't super windy, but
Well, looking at the map in LOTRO, it looks like actually the Anduin is it's got that kind of twisty bend in it right before it gets into Rohan. Probably the Great River region.
Yeah. So I'm guessing that it's the Anduin. It could be another one, but at least when I think about rivers inside, because what other major rivers are in Rovanian?
The Entwade.
Yeah, you got a. Yeah, okay.
But I think that is the Anduin right around the Great River area.
Yeah.
Which sort of makes sense because eagles.
Yeah, eagles. So I'm guessing it's the Anduin, but if someone could better guess, I'm trying to think what that little piece of landscape there where there's something big in the distance. I don't know what that's intended to be. But anyway, you can adventure in Rovanian, and I am sure that in the book then somewhere you could probably get a good idea of where that actually is. And there's a PDF of it that's available at a Drive-Thru RPG if you prefer to get your books in digital form. And therefore, we currently have 22 supporters on Patreon. If you'd like to join this illustrious rate of players and help support LOTRO Players News, simply go to the donations page where you can support the Players Alliance on Patreon. There you'll find rewards, including a mention on the podcast of your choice, or even be a guest with us for an episode of LOTRO Players News. If you would like to send us an email, you can send it to podcast@LotroPlayers.com, and you can also follow us at Twitter, the Players Alliance @PlayersAlliance, LOTRO Players @LOTRO Players, Ariendis @Ariendis, Maven @Tolkien Maven, Pineleaf @Pineleaf Needles, Sanswinda @Sanswinda, and Terry Adwin @TerryAdwin. The Players Alliance has 4 live shows every Monday at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. We have DDO Players News on the first and third Fridays of each month at 11:59 U.S. Eastern Time. We have XP Quest on the last Friday of each month at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. We have LOTRO Academy After School, and every Saturday at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have LOTRO Players News. You can transfer our live shows at LOTROPlayers.com/live. And that is all for tonight. And this is Pineleaf News reminding you to skirmish responsibly.